welcome to Semper Sometimes with Benny. I got Gunnery Sergeant Flores with us. Some of you may know who he is, some of you may not know who he is. I'll definitely tag his Instagram on the account. But Gunnery Sergeant Flores just recently got his PhD while being enlisted in the Marine Corps. So he's gonna talk to us about a lot of stuff today. And I'm really excited to have him as a guest. He'll be our first doctor on the show. Just really excited to talk to him about all the different things that he's done in his career thus far. So without further ado, welcome, Gunnery Sergeant.
Welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. So just kind of, if you don't mind, give us a background on who you are. Where did you come from? How did you grow up type thing? And we'll kind of just go from there.
All right, yeah. Like you said, I'm Gunnery Sergeant Flores. Just turned 32, like last week. Originally from San Antonio, Texas. I grew up in a small town. It's called Cotulla. Grew up there. Large family. I was blessed to have both my mom and dad. Large family. One sister, she's the oldest. I'm the oldest boy, and then 5 younger brothers. So grew up in South Texas. Grew kind of poor, nothing crazy. But obviously we with the large family, my parents did what they had to do to support us. We didn't really have, the best upbringing in that regard. But we're always happy. We were raised in a Christian home. So I think that's what kind of like started my values. Then grew up again, because we did grow up poor. I didn't have the funding to go to college. We didn't have a car. We didn't have anything. So my senior year of high school, I ran into, and it was never my endeavor to join the military either.
Okay.
Ran into the recruiter, made me realize that I had an idea, I didn't have a plan. And then joined the military. And then from there, that's really where my career started.
Damn. So was it anything? So now, did you run into him? Did he run into you? Like, how did that whole thing happen? Like, is it?
Yeah, so he was, they were doing a career fair in the gym. And by this time, so one thing that people don't really know about me is that I actually, like in middle school and elementary, I was actually like really fat.
Oh, really?
I was overweight. And it's actually a funny story, because then my 8th grade year, no, my 6th or 7th grade, I worked up the confidence to ask this girl out, like, to be my girlfriend. And she was like, no, like, I like athletic guys. And so she completely turned me down in front of the whole school. And so that was like really embarrassing. From there, I started running every day. So I started running every day, and I lost all the weight, and I actually got really good at running. So, and the reason I say that, because by the time now I'm a senior, not only was I like the most improved, but I was actually like one of the best athletes in my high school, because as a result of that rejection.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I had a scholarship to run track.
Mm-hmm. So kudos to her, right?
Yeah, it was good. And it's one of those funny, like later on, she ended up liking me. Now I'm good. Like, like me then? Like,
yeah.
So my senior year, because I thought I was banking on that scholarship. I was going to career fair. I was like, I already know my plan, but I'll just go. So I was walking.
You just went to get out of class.
Yeah, we're just from. So I was with my best friend, and we're just walking in, kind of like we own the school. And then the Marine Corps recruiter making everybody do push-ups for like this little the dog tags, little Marine Corps dog tags. And he's making everybody do it, and I walk up and I'm like, what are y'all doing? They're like, we're trying to earn a dog tag. If you do 50 push-ups, you get this dog tag. And the recruiter looks at me, and then he looks at his paper, and then he looks back at me, and he hands me one of them. And I was like, I'm not gonna, like, bro, I'm good. Like, I'm not gonna get down and do push-ups. He was like, no, like, you can have it. And then everybody gets mad, like, why? He was like, these guys are gonna make a good Marine one day. And I was like, hell no. This was in 07, so we were at.
Oh shit! So he played you. I like this guy. So he just handed you one. Didn't even make you do push-ups. He's like, he gonna be good. Oh shit! Okay.
Yeah, he called it. He was like, I have a gift. And I could tell, like, he's gonna be Marine one. He's gonna make a good Marine. And I was like, hell no, like, not me. I was like, I'm not joining the military. And then at that time again, we were at war with Iraq, so the casualty rates, like, it was all over the newspaper. There was just a lot of fear in regards to that. So I was like, no, I'm not, like, why would I join the military and go to Iraq and get killed when I got a scholarship here? But he was just like, check it out, because the recruit station to where my high school is about an hour drive. So he said, like, hey, tomorrow I'm going to come back in the library. I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to sit down and, have an appointment. But I was like, all right, man, I'll see if I'm not busy. But so then he came back the next day, and I was walking with my girlfriend. And then I told her, I was like, hey, the Marines are trying to recruit me. And she's like, if you join the military for the Marines, like, I'm leaving you. Like, I'm not going to sit around and wait. And I was like, no, I was like, I love you. That time I was like, there's nothing's going to get me to join the military. Like, I already had my plan. So, like, one foot out the door. And then I saw him, and I saw the Deltas, the dress blue Deltas. And I was like, damn, they do look good though. I was like, this guy drove an hour, like, lives, like, let me at least give him 15 minutes of my time. Because he didn't say anything. He saw me, and I just kept walking, and he didn't say anything. He didn't stop me. So I came back, and then, yeah, man, from there, we ended up becoming really good friends. He showed me, all the benefits that the Marine Corps and the opportunities the Marine Corps has. And I was like, I thought about it. I was like, this is something that I could truly see myself, So this is something I could truly see myself doing. And when I told my parents, they freaked out. Mom was like, hell no. My dad said he would disown me if I joined the military or the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
And everybody said no. My girlfriend said she'd leave me. Everybody that I loved or cared about was like, don't do it. But I just had this calling. I would YouTube videos. I became obsessed with the Marine Corps, and I was like, it's something I want to do. I turned down my scholarship.
So what do you think it was? Do you think it was just like the fact of how this guy was talking to you? Like, was it the way that, like, what do you think it was? Because like a lot of what I'm like the way you're talking is like a lot of Marines and we'll talk about this when we talk about when you get on recruiting duty, but there's different styles of approaches. And the approach that this recruiter is going at is one I like a lot. And that was kind of my approach. Like, hey, I'm going to tell you we're going to do this. Like he said, oh, tomorrow we're going to meet in the library. And then you were like, oh shit. And then you gave him that time and stuff. So do you think it was his approach? Like, what do you think it was that made you just completely switch around?
Yeah. So once we started talking, I realized that he was actually me for a while. So he knew who I was. He knew a lot of information about me through the coaches, because he builds rapport with the coaches. So he already knew a lot about me. So by the time we sat down for that appointment, he was like, he was just kind of like looking at who I was, really dissecting it. And I think what really got me was his approach. Plus, he said that he was like, you're the type of guy that constantly needs to be challenged. Like you do something, like you need the next step, because you're not an average guy. You're very ambitious. And he saw this like pretty early. He goes, if you go to college, like everybody goes to college, like you're not gonna be fulfilled. And then that kind of struck a chord, because when I did get my acceptance letter to my dream university, I was not happy. I was just like, not like I thought I was gonna be. So he was like, I feel like there's something missing. Because with the Marine Corps, there's endless opportunities, there's endless challenges. You're gonna be among like top tier people in the world. He goes, and that's who you can be competing with. He goes, it's going to make you better. You might not be the best. So I think that's what really got me, was the opportunity like to grow and never plateau, never settle, never go to a corporation and just earn a position and stay static for years. So I think it was that. But definitely his approach too. Because I guess because he knew me, he knew that about me. So that's what really kind of like launched it.
And clearly from what you're saying, with him talking about, constantly moving up and constantly being around other people and fighting, and not getting stagnant. Clearly you've shown that through your career. So I guess my next question would be, you joined the Marine Corps. How now were you old enough to sign, or no? Like, what happened with mom and dad? Because I know you said they were completely against it too. So like, how did that all go down?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because no, I was 17, so I did need parental consent from both parents, and they were not gonna sign. And then I finally, my mom made me make her a promise. She said, I signed the PC, the parental consent. You're like, you will go to college. She's like, I don't care if you're in Iraq, I don't care if you're in Afghanistan, I don't care if you're on a ship, you're gonna go to college, you're gonna get a degree. Because I would be the first in my family at that time to, because my sister went to college, but she dropped out. So she was like, you need to be the example. And then my father was a little childish at the time, but he said that he would sign, but he's gonna disown me, like I'm not his son. Because he was really upset. So he signed. He was like, "All right, I'm not going to speak to you, when until you get back." So that was kind of like it was like just give your, listen to what your mom said, go to college, and so that was what really started me to go to school at such. Because as soon as I joined the Marine Corps and I got to my first duty station, I started going to college right away. Started taking night classes to fulfill that promise. So that's how I was able to get them on board. But once I graduated, recruit training, once I graduated, came back, it was a different mindset. My dad was extremely proud, bragging about me, not only I'm his son again, but he was bragging about me, wearing Marine Corps t-shirt, Marine Corps hat.
Dude, that's the thing, man, is that, a lot of people, you were a recruiter, I was a recruiter. Like you hear that stuff all the time, people's parents, I'm going to disown you. I'm going to stop talking to you. I'm going to do all these things. And like, I don't, it's to me, I'm a parent. I know you're a parent. Like, I don't know what goes through people's minds when they say stuff like that. And I try to explain to parents, I'm like, listen, your son going through this time, your son's going to need someone that believes in him. And the last thing that he wants is someone who doesn't believe in him. I think it's crazy, but it's a good hearing your story because a lot of people end up not joining. Like I got a 28-year-old man that I put in the Marine Corps because his parents told him at 18 that they would disown him. And then 10 years later, he was like, you know what, man, I'm just going to do it, and he finally did it. And now mom and dad are proud, so it's definitely crazy, so another question I would have so while this was going on, dad saying he's going to disown you, your family's not really happy about it. What do you think it was that kind of made you continue to pursue it and not back off? Like a lot of people do. A lot of people back off and they're like, my family's not going to support me. My family's not going to be there for me. You know what? It's whatever. It's not worth it. Like, what was it? Was it just the fact of like, the videos and your recruiter? Like, what was it? Or did you have like a deeper, like something inside of you, like just telling you, like, was God like in your ear? Like, hey man, like what was going on?
Yeah. So, like I said, I am a man of faith. So I relied on that, I told my dad, like, I know you raised me and said, oh, baby, to have faith and trust in God. Because I could be at a library and get shot. I can be down the street and get shot. I can, earthquakes happen all the time, tornadoes. So I was like, it doesn't matter. I'm not, because his reasoning was like, I'm not going to sign so that you can go war and come back in a body bag. I was like, well, regardless of where I'm at, like when it's my time to go, it's my time to go.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, what really, really was my drive, my why, is because I was the oldest boy, and I knew that by my example, my little brothers, because they followed me to anything I would do, what I would wear, the way I would wear my hair, they followed me, to the end. So I knew that if I didn't do something with my life, become a positive role model, that they're going to follow. So if I just went to college, came back, kind of like my sister did, then they were going to do the same. So I knew that I was put in an early leadership position with my younger brothers. So, well, everybody that loved me said, don't do it. I did feel, I was like, I'm not average. I'm not your average guy. Like, I need to go do something. And this is like my calling, even if it was a stepping stone. But I needed to get out. I needed to get out of my hometown and then make a name for myself and kind of pave the way. So my mentality at the time was like, I'm going, but I'm paving the way for my little brothers, and then at the time, I remember I mentioned that my family was poor too. So I was like, so that I can one day buy a house for my mom, so I had all these little personal ambitions. So I stuck to it. And I was like, and I put my faith in God. I was like, God, I know you're gonna take care of me. Because I was scared. I was terrified. I didn't really have the backing that a lot of people do. I took a leap of faith, and then, like I said, I'm glad that I was able to stick through it. But I felt like the more people were saying don't do it, I felt like to me that was like, I'm going to reestablish faith in them. Because once I did, and I showed my dad, he was just like, yeah, I shouldn't have questioned you. He was scared. I was his first boy to leave So I think that's what really was the role that I was playing as the oldest sibling.
Got
Yeah.
you. So from there, you joined the Marine Corps. You go to boot camp. Like, what job did you pick? What's your MOS in the Marine Corps? Kind of just run through, how did you continue to do your education? Like, how did you, and especially the beginning, and I asked that question because, a lot of people say that, a lot of people say, hey, I'm going to go to college. I'm going to do this. And then all of a sudden PFC drinking in the Marine Corps, Lance Corporal drinking in the Marine Corps, start going to strip clubs, you start going out and doing all these other things, and you forget about the promises that you make to people. And you just kind of get lackadaisical. So what was going on through you, especially in those younger years of your career, that you were able to actually continue through this and, deployments or anything like that? Like, how was that first 4 years for you?
Yes. So I joined, my original job was supply. I was supposed to be, but then I ended up changing it because I wanted to be more hands-on. So I ended up changing it to transportation. So it was motor transportation.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did the Marine Corps, or did recruit training, West Coast graduate. I was with Bravo Company, graduated, and then went to MO school. And originally, I was like, before I knew anything about the Marine Corps, I told my recruiter I want to get stationed in Texas because I want to be back home. And then he was like, yeah, that's not possible. Like, that's not going to happen. If anything, and I told him I didn't want to deploy and I want to get stationed in Texas. And my recruiter was like, check it out. Like, you're not going to get stationed in Texas. You're probably going to go overseas. And at the first opportunity, you're probably going to get deployed. And I was like, why the hell would I join? Like, if that's going to be the case, like, why would I join? He was like, I'd rather tell you worst case scenario than promise you something I can't give you. So, and that's one thing that with him was honesty, very. But then I joined, and then I was at MOS school, and then came the opportunity to choose what coast you wanted to go. And I don't know, like, because I was already thinking, like, I'll just go to California, I'll be close. And then that morning that I woke up, I was just like, I felt like God was talking to me. He was like, go overseas, go overseas. I'll be straight. I'm a mama's boy. So I like wanted to be close to my mom. I wanted to be close to my family. But then that day, and they were like, hey, if you want to go overseas, come in this line. Nobody got up. And then I felt like I need to go. I need to go overseas, take a leap of faith again. So I got up and I went to overseas line. And then they're like, where do you want to go? I was like, Japan. And they're like, yeah, well, like, you're not going to get your fish orders today, but we can guarantee you're going to go to Japan. So that was my first duty station, went to Japan. But I had like little, I employed like little measures for me to ensure that I stayed on track. Kind of like we said, like I didn't drink the entire time I was at Okinawa.
Wow, really?
I made myself promise that I'm not going to drink until I'm 25, just so that
Shit.
I could 17 to 25, I never drink.
Hold on. Stop. So you made yourself a promise that you weren't going to drink from 17 to 25 years old. Yes. Then you decided that you were going to go to Japan.
Yes.
And then you got stationed in Japan, and then you spent your first enlistment sober.
Yes.
Surrounded by Marines who all they do 9 times out of 10 is drink.
Yeah, it was tough.
So, bro, I gotta ask, man, how did you? And again, the reason why I'm trying to understand this is because there's a lot of Marines out there who come from, and again, this isn't towards another person, but there's a lot of Marines who come out into the Marine Corps and who are faithful people. A lot of Christians or other religions, and they give it up due to peer pressure, due to people being around them. Or people who just never drank. Like, I have friends of mine who literally never smoked, never drank, joined the Marine Corps, and then all of a sudden now they're the biggest smokers and drinkers I know. So my question for you is, what was going on? Like, was it just your strong faith? Was it mentality, physical fitness? Like, how did you do this for 8 years, commit yourself to this promise and see it through?
Yeah. So I did grow up seeing my dad. My dad used to drink a lot, and he used to, and I'm not proud of it, but it is what it is. He would beat my mom, and so I grew up seeing that, and so I knew the effects that alcohol had, because that's that's what I saw. So I knew I don't want to do that. I don't want to derail my career because it hasn't even started. So, iteration. And then going back to what I was saying, I was a role model for my brothers. So I knew if I started drinking, they're going to start as soon as, because I'm telling you that everything that I would do, they would pick up. So that was like my promise to them was like, I'm not drinking, I'm not gonna do anything. And then even when they're in Japan, I witnessed a lot of careers get destroyed because of DUIs, fights. I witnessed a lot of it. And I was like, I don't want for the plan that I have, and the journey that I want to take. I was like, if I start drinking now, like I'm never gonna make it. I'm gonna create more roadblocks. Um, but you're right. There was a lot of peer pressure. Everything. Even I deployed and came back, and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna take a shot." I'm like, "I'm not." And we lost people, and sort of like in honor of them, I was like, I can honor them without drinking. So
Yeah.
I did a lot of pushback, and they took it as disrespect, which I could see. But I was like, "Hey, you gotta honor my values. Like I've never drank in my life, so why would I start now?"
Yeah.
Like, oh, we got to remember so and so. I was like, I'll go on a like 10-mile run for him, but I can't drink. Like it's not my plan. It's not. I can't get derailed. Even with the women would go out and they were like, "Hey, let's take a drink." I'm like, "I'm not." And they're like, "Are you gay or what?" I'm like, "No, I don't drink." And they're like, "Why?" And I was like, "Because I don't." They're like, "Are you
Yeah.
Mormon?" And I didn't want to explain to them, but I was like,
Or you Mormon. And so it's
yeah,
and it's funny that because I had this conversation with one of my buddies on an older episode, and we talked about it because he's been clean, he's been sober for 4 years, and he's in the Marine Corps, and he started his journey of being sober in Japan. And me and him were just talking about it, and I was like, listen, like, I once in a while I have a drink. I used to there was a time where I drank a lot. Now I just drink once in a blue moon, or if I have a couple, right? And just me and him were talking about it, and we were just like, it's really effed up because if you ever go to someone's house, right, they walk on your door, first thing you're always going to do is you're always going to say, hey, do you want to drink? You just say, hey, do you want to drink? And if they say, yeah, I'll have a water, a lot of people are like, why? It's like, bro, why do you care? Like, why do you have to care what they're choosing to drink? And then also, why do you have to make a big deal out of it? And it's like, and like you're talking about, like, it's nobody else's business why you're choosing to not drink.
right,
Like, and especially people who don't know you. It's not like me and you've been friends for 15 years and like I owe you an explanation. And even then, there's no explanation needed because it's my body. I'm choosing to not drink. But, it's kind of effed up when people think they're owed an explanation, like, oh, why not? And then it's like, because I don't want to, like,
yeah,
and it's so realistically, you just kind of, it was, excuse me, so it was for your promises that you kept it. It was
correct,
like you're for your family, for your upbringing, for the people around you. um Now you said you deploy at that time, you also had deployed.
correct.
How was that for you?
Uh,
did
so
you did you have any issues coming back? Did you any kind of anger, frustration, mental issues, or how was
no,
the deployment? Did you love it? Did you have a great time? Like,
yeah, I went through like a really bad heartbreak right before that. So the deployment was actually therapeutic because I was able to get away and fulfill a purpose. So it was really good. But it was a volunteer. So I was an individual augmentee
mhm.
volunteer, so another unit. Because I was at that time I was in a non-deployable unit.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, unless I volunteer, I try to get on again because I knew that I wanted to have a good career in the Marine Corps. Like if I don't deploy, I don't have that history. I don't have that experience later on when I do move up in the ranks. It's going to be hard to mentor somebody if I've never experienced
Yeah.
it. So I did it. We went to Kuwait. We started in Kuwait, went going to Baghdad, Iraq, and then we redeployed back to Kuwait, and then we came back. But I just met some really good guys. Nothing crazy happened, like to us. Um, didn't really experience any mental health issues. When I came back, I was just like your normal paranoia from being, in country.
Mhm.
So that it take a while to kind of adjust because like somebody would like grab me and I would like flinch or like when I'm asleep and they would come in and like kind of like tap me to wake up. I would wake up like very paranoid. But I was able to because at that time I was going for my bachelor's in psychology. So it was very ironic that I was studying what I was actually going through as far as like decompress.
Yeah, so one of the questions I was going to ask you was, I saw that there's a picture you have on your Instagram
Yeah,
of you against, a hut, and you're
yes,
taking, so, and I guess the picture is, it's something about like a 10-hour convoy, and now you're using, so you were still going to college even while you were forward deployed.
sir.
Okay, so here's a question for you, right? Just because, so I was a recruiter, And I told people that, hey man, you can go to college. Hey man, you can do all this. I'm not gonna lie to you. I know how it works, but I don't know how the deep entails of it are. Can you kind of just explain to people how you were able to be in Japan, be overseas, go to college? Like, how were you able to achieve your bachelor's degree, in this amount of time? And now, your doctorate, how were you able to do these things?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And I think the biggest excuse that people give themselves is they don't have time or they procrastinate. So I knew at that time that I was like, if I got to find a way. I got to find a way to do it. So in Japan, it was pretty easy because I was a non-deployable unit. So I would just go to night school. So get out of work around 16. And then around, it was like 17:30 to like 20:30. I would go to school right after. And I would do that 7 days a week or 5 days a week because I was actually attending on campus. But then I ended up switching to an online program when I deployed. So almost every like FOB or everywhere overseas, there's always like a USO, there's somewhere where it's gonna have Wi-Fi. So what I would do is I would plan and either front load all my assignments at the beginning of the week or 2 weeks if I knew I was gonna be on a convoy. So I would front load all my assignments, communicate with my instructor saying, hey, I'm deployed right now. I'm still gonna continue. And they would take that pretty courageous, like, well, that's good. But if you need anything, they're full support. So either that or on the back end, I was like, hey, I'm going to be late because I'm not going to be, available because I don't have any network. Because there were a couple of times when I was on both deployments where they would go to like River City where they cut off communication because there was a casualty. So then, but when I would get back online, I would tell them like, hey, I'm going to be late or I need an extension. And I would communicate, but all my textbooks, I would either physically have them with me or I would save them as a PDF to my laptop. And I took that laptop that I'm in the picture with, I would take that everywhere I go, every convoy, and I would download my assignments. So whenever we have like downtime, I would pull it up and I would just do my assignments. Most times, like writing essays, I would write my essays, save it. And then when I would get back to, with Wi-Fi, I would just, upload them. So I was able to do that. Then I did join an artillery unit and we're always in the field. But like I say, where there's a will, there's a way. So I would use my cell phone as a hotspot, when we're in work, because I was artillery and the guns would go cold. And then I would pull up my laptop and I would have internet connection. And I would do that throughout the day, or again, front load all my assignments. So I was able to do that. Same thing with recruiting after hours. It's switching mindset because you're a recruiter too. So like, let's go to work like at 7 a.m. and then I would stay till I was always the last one to leave, like at 2000, 20 or 22, close doors, turn off whatever. I would stay there at the office to avoid going home and getting complacent. So I'll stay at the office, close my work laptop, shut down the Chris, and then I'll open up my personal laptop and start doing homework. So
All right, hold on. So this is where I really wanted to get into. So you were on recruiting duty.
Yes.
And so what time would you get to the office?
7 a.m.
And then you would be done with your job around what time?
2200.
So now at 2200, you would then you would put your clothes down with Chris, close out all your events, and then you will pull up your computer for school. And then you would sit at school, you would sit there for how long?
So typically if I start like at 22, I'll be done by midnight, sometimes like 0-1.
And now were you still hitting the gym and shit throughout those times?
Yeah, still.
Okay. So now I gotta understand this, man, because and again, like how were you doing this? Like, and I'm gonna ask the question because I know that any recruiters out here that are gonna listen to this episode are gonna say the age-old phrase, well, he must have had a good AO. Everybody's gonna say that. So did you have a good AO? Like, how did you make this happen to where, because you were also recruiter of the year, right?
Yes, sir.
One time or twice?
Just one time.
Okay. So you were recruiter of the year so how did you do all this while going to college? Because I thought I was really good. And then I started hearing your story and I was like, yo, I got someone I got to be better than. So what was going on that and how did you make it happen? Like, I think that's my Besides the fact that clearly what I'm learning from you is that you make promises, you keep promises, and you make shit happen. So my question is that, while you're dealing with MEPS runs, poolies, your boss, the command element, PT, like how are you also now adding college onto the top of this?
Yeah. So one thing, yeah, because as you say, it sounds like supernatural. One thing that I did learn how to master was using any type of negative, anything that would happen in my life that was negative. I was able to use that energy and propel it towards something, productive. So I ended up in New York, but that's not where I wanted to go. I did a
Oh
binary.
yeah, can you tell me about that? Because I saw that on your
Yeah,
Instagram too. That you were gonna you had a binding request in, and then you had some people from New York that were like, "Yo, you're gonna be trash." So
yeah. So I was gonna go to San Antonio, Texas, back to my hometown. I had a binary request. I had an apartment locked on at that time. High school sweetheart that I was with, we were engaged, right? We were gonna get married. So I had this whole plan. Um, and then like a day before or the day of district assignments, it's crazy how it all happened. In the morning, she woke up and found out she cheated on me, so I left her that morning. Then I go on, yeah. Then I go in to get, my district assignment. I'm like, all right, well, at least I'm going to Texas. I'll be with my family. And they're like, Southern Florida's first district, New York, and I was like, what the hell? Like, so that just shattered my.
something's got to be wrong. You got the wrong Flores.
Yeah, that's exactly what I said because there was two of us, and they're like, well, the other one's going to Florida, so there's like nobody, none of the two of you are going to Texas. So I called my recruiter. I called the sergeant major. I was like, sergeant major, they're sending me to New York. He was like, oh, big dog, I got to talk to you. I was like, what's too late? He was like, yeah, man, I had to trade you away. I had to let you go because I need a staff sergeant. I was like, why? And I was crying up on because I just got I just broke up. My whole plan shattered. So I was like, I need to go to Texas. And he was like, nah, I need staff NCOs. I need a station commander. And he goes, so I traded you away. And New York wanted you. So they picked you up. And so I told him, trying to plead my case, like I can get promoted, or, I can go meritorious. That's my goal. I want to be a station commander. Like, give me a chance. And he was like, nah, man. Like, everybody says that. Everybody says they want to be meritorious. I was like, I'm different. Like, I'll prove it to you. I was like, I will grind. He was like, nah, I gotta let you go, brother. He was like, I got a meeting I gotta go to. So hung up on me, and I'm just like, like, damn. All right, well. But to kind of answer yourself, so that energy that I had, I was like, all right, well, New York is where I'm gonna go. That's where the Marine Corps wants me. That's where I want to go and perform. So then I got to New York, and they didn't accept me because I was, tech. They can tell by the way I talk. Because New Yorkers have their own culture. They have it's very unique. They have their own language.
Yeah, we do.
So they're very it's very easy to spot someone who's not from there.
Yeah.
So I went to talk to them. All the recruiters they grew up from New York, so they were all New York natives. So when I got there, they didn't accept me right away.
Where were you at?
I was in the Hamptons, Long Island.
Oh, you were in the Hamptons?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like that's got to be a hard area. It is. Everybody there has a plan. Nobody wants to join the Marine Corps over there.
Yeah, and they're taking over family businesses that are $1 million. Like, why would they join?
Yeah.
So when I got there and I told them, I was like, they didn't accept me, and they said I was going to try, and they said I was going to, I was going to make it, and they were just very, very negative. So then at the Marine Corps Ball, when they announced at that time the 2013 Recruit of the Year, I sat in front of the RS, the entire RS. I was like, that's going to be me next year. I hadn't wrote a single contract. I was still on par. They look at me and they're like, you? And I was like, yeah. And they're like, bro, you're not even from here. Like, you don't know how to talk to these kids. So I already had made that I spoke it. I was like, that's gonna be me next year. Next year I'm gonna be the Recruit of the Year. So they laughed at me. They're like, hell no. And I think that's all this negative energy was the reason I would grind every day. Whenever I want to quit, I'm like, I know that they don't want me to succeed. And it's not they didn't want to. It's just how New Yorkers are, which I learned later on.
Yeah.
It was just tough love, but I would think about that. I would think about the breakup that I went through, because it really did damage my self-esteem at that time. And I was like, the best revenge to me is success. So instead of being depressed, instead of breaking down, I would propel that and use it to do something productive. So that was like my daily grind. And then as I started moving up, success as a recruiter, that's what some people started to believe, like, damn, this guy's actually going to do what he said. He said he was going to be the recruiter of the year without writing a single contract, not even being from here. But I outworked everybody. I worked them, I willed them, I'll determine. I was the first one there, last one to leave. If somebody wanted to come in the office like 10 o'clock at night, I tell my boss, like, I'll be there. Like, every possible way that I could. I just found a way to grind. So that I would do that. I would do the gym during the day for like my decompression. Again, relied a lot on my religion, and throughout recruiting's ups and downs. So there's a lot of negative things that happen on recruiting duty, and I was like, okay, well, this is what I need is my wake up call. Like, I'm just gonna grind. I'm just gonna grind harder. So
what do you mean? What do you mean by that? Like, what kind of negative things, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, because at that time I didn't understand how to like write. I didn't know how to understand like the reports, write numbers. So my boss manipulated me, would make me write like 4 or 5 contracts a month. And a kid would go to Maps Allocate, and hey, they're gonna read you your rights. And so I didn't know any better. Like, this kid allocated, it was the only way like I can get the RI to, dismiss it if you write another contract. So I was like, oh yeah, it's easy. I'll go. So now writing a 6.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he was
what?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
I didn't know. So at the time, like, I was successful, but I didn't feel that because I was just burnt out. And on top of that, like I said, work on a master's on that B billet. So I was always depressed. I was always like,
so how were you doing this? How were you doing this entire thing while being like, so I know you said before, your religion. So did you like, do you pray? Like, did you pray a lot? Like, was that part of your schedule every day, was to have time in prayer? And was that a lot of it too?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, just your, like, in the mornings, at night, before meals. But I wasn't like, I would stay strong to my faith, but I wasn't, I was obviously not, I didn't make time for like church or anything like that. So it's not like,
because it's freaking, that's insane.
But I always had like, when I made that, to me, it was like my vision. I was like, at the beginning, at that ball, when I said I'm going to be recruit of the year, like, I meant it. So now I have to sustain that. So I would just remind myself where I wanted to be. It sounds kind of cheesy, maybe corny, but I would daydream. I'll daydream like, hey, one day I'm going to be at the ball. I'm going to be the recruit of the year. I'm going to get married, sort of promoted. So I would just always have that clear vision every single day that I would wake up and be like, hey, this is what you want to do. Like, you're tired right now. I know you're tired.
So you envisioned it. You brought it into existence. You said, I'm going to do this.
Correct.
And I like that you say that, because, I had this master gunny a long time ago. I was a Lance Corporal. I'll never forget it. But recruiters I was a Lance Corporal on Rec Aid, and people would say things like, oh, I tried. And this master gunny would turn around and be like, what the did you just say? And he would start flipping out, because he'd be like, what does that mean? He would flip out because people would say, oh, I tried. He's like, it doesn't mean shit unless you do. And a lot of people say that. Like, I had this dude hit me up yesterday. He's like, oh, I might write 4 this month. And I was like, no, you're going to write 4 this month. Because if you keep saying shit like I might, or I try, or this, you don't believe, dude, you're just using your vernacular. You're not believing in yourself to that point. So that's what a lot of what you're so far, everything you've told us is that you just believed it into existence. Like, I'm going to do this, and this is going to happen. So much so that you now begin to daydream about it and look at the future. Like, okay, I'm going to do this. So that was a huge part of the whole thing, I'm assuming.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like, but also like the daily reminder, like I said, when I would wake up and I'm tired and I'm like, I don't want to go to work, I would remind myself, like, you said you were going to do this, so you need to put in the work. So it's that. I would also I had like little rituals. I would wake up, I would like wake up to like a motivational video, listen to like Eric Thomas a lot. I would wake up, and so I kind of like that, and then when I go to sleep, I'll listen to motivation videos. So I'm kind of like strengthening my mind or preparing my mind, because I was like, I'm going to go do this. Today's going to be a hard day, but if I can get my mind right, my mindset, then that's good. And then again, reminding myself of that vision that I had. that allowed me to, you know, to progress and to be productive day in, day out, you know, without, and I did get burnt out on recruiting duty. I pushed myself because we were going through an SRI. And then also, like I said, I was working on my master's. So I pushed myself to the point of exhaustion. I think twice I was hospitalized for dehydration and because I didn't sleep for like 2 or 3 days. So I pushed myself past those limits. But even when that came in, they're like, hey, you need to take a break. I was like, no, hell no. Like, I'm going to get better. I'm going to hydrate, but I'm going to go right back. So, you know, because
Wow.
because I
So what type of, so besides the work ethic, besides the, you know, the schedule, the McChris, what was it that worked for you? What were some things that you did on recruiting duty that led you to becoming, you know, recruiter of the year? Like, what was your, you know, like what type of recruiter were you? Like, what did you, what was your niche? You know, because a lot of people, you know, a lot of people TC, a lot of people AC. Like me, I loved ACing. Like, were you both? Were you everything? Like, what was, you know, how did you become the recruiter of the year essentially?
yeah, so 8412s are probably going to hate me for saying this, but I was not systematic. I didn't believe in systematic. Probably like, oh, they're going to hate me.
Bro, it's funny. It's funny that you say that because what I've realized is that most people, and it's crazy because so you're sitting here talking about how you schedule time for prayer, you schedule time for, you know, daydreaming, you schedule time for, you know, reading and writing and all this other stuff, but yet I'm not systematic, you know, so it's crazy. But you know, I think it's also crazy because I agree with you. You know, my day long dream is to become an 8412. You know, so people hate me when I say it because the reality of it is that if you're and me and my boy Gunny Odenbrett used to talk about this. He's an 8412, and he when I became a staff NCO, he said this. He would be like, "Listen, bro, there's going to be one or two things that are going to happen." He's like, "You're either going to be really systematic and you're going to miss mission, or you're going to make mission and you're going to have a whole lot of shit to freaking fix."
yeah,
And that's the reality of it, because if you're so busy in McChris and closing out events and doing this and doing this and doing this, you're not doing your job.
yeah,
And it's true because so many people get so caught up into being systematic, but they're not even good recruiters. And it's
yes.
like, you know, so I think it has to be a happy medium of both, you know, because
Mhm.
if you are systematic, you do get some nice, you know, people come back, you know, you do your follow-ups. So I think you have to be systematic to an extent, but
Oh yeah,
yeah. So what were you gonna say? My bad.
yeah, yeah. Let me rephrase. So I was not systematic in the sense of the numbers. Like you need to make this many to get this, get this.
Yeah, yeah,
All
yeah.
works, and I'm not knocking it down. And I think systematic recruiting sometimes is for those recruiters that don't have. And I felt like I had the ability to communicate effectively. I'm an outgoing person, so I already had kind of like the art.
Hmm.
I already had it, and I wanted to be there, and I had a dream. Uh, so I didn't really, I don't think I even wrote one contract there in the TC. Not a single one because I was one. A lot of people are going to join the Marine Corps for the recruiter because you're selling yourself.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm selling myself, selling my story. I could relate because I didn't want to be a Marine at first. So I was able to relate, like, hey, I never saw myself being a Marine, but like here I am, and everybody and their parents would love me. They're like, if my son can be like you, then yeah, this is what I want. I was like, I can't promise you he's going to be like me. Or we'll give him the opportunity, and we'll give him the opportunity. The door's there, but it's up to him. But for me, what really helped me out was social media. Social media was like my go-to. And then kind of like you mentioned, AC. So I would go to the gym through it like in the day, and I would wear like my Marine Corps swag. And so I'd go to the gym, work out. I would, screen somebody and kind of say like, oh, he looks fit. He looks like he's 18. I'd go and ask for like a spot. I was like, hey, man, you got me. And then he spotted me, and then that's how I would get my AC contacts. Like, talk to them. I'm like, hey, what are you what are you training for, man? And they were like, oh, I just, just working out to look good. I'm like, dude, you ever thought about the military? Like, yeah, you would do great. And then it was easy to pick them up, or I'll go to the sauna. So, very, like I said, very unorthodox when it came to recruiting. I worked the pool. I worked the pool, the PT. Bring people to come join the PT, and I made it fun. So it was I was able to grow in that sense, but a lot of it was I relied a lot on social media. So when I go to a school, I'll tag myself. So I always had, because I could never generate a bucket because I'm telling you, I was writing like fives every single month. So what I would get, CUNY and then floor. And so I never had a bucket to nourish.
Yeah, I don't know
So,
what a bucket is either.
yeah, to
Never,
constantly.
never heard of her.
And then I honestly, and it came to what I was mentioning about the grind, because I stayed at the office so late. A majority, a lot of my contracts would come from, the Air Force is never there. So anytime someone go to Air Force, I was like, oh, this is easy. Like, I'm bring them in, and they're like, you're not gonna get them. So I go out there. And I was like, hey man, well, like, what's going on? He was like, I'm trying to join the Air Force, and I was like, hey, you thought about the Marines, and they're like, no, hell no. So right away, I was like, all right, they're not interested. And I was like, but, and I would tell them like, watch this. So I was like, hey man, they haven't been here all week, and I'll be transparent with you. They're not hurting for anybody right now. So I was like, but you drove all this way. You took time to come out of your day to come get information. Like, so at the minimum, I'm going to pack you out. I'm going to see you're basically qualified because we're all the Department of Defense. They all go to the same maps. So I'll see if you're qualified, and then I'll hand this information off to the Air Force. So I give them to the office, and they leave with a Marine Corps binder, and they're going to maps. So it was just outworking them. I was always there. The holidays, they would take off, the Army would take off, and then people would come to their office because they're going to a recruiting office because they want something, they want an opportunity. So they're coming to you. So I was like, all right, this is easy. So I would bring them in, and not all of them would join the Marine Corps, but I'd say a majority of them. But it was always being there, it was being at work, working around the clock. So a lot of times the appointments, because the young adults, they have lives too. So I don't get off till like 9 o'clock. I was like, all right, man, I'll see you at 10 o'clock. And I was just on it. I was like, what, check it out. Like, you get off at 9 o'clock, I'm gonna come pick you up at work. I was like, because your career is important to me. So I'm willing to go out there. So I was always just going that extra step, rather than they're like, oh, I'll get out at work at 9. And a typical recruiter is like, oh, can you come in tomorrow? And then by tomorrow he changes his mind. So I never let up. I was just like, no, I'll go to you.
Oh shit.
And I was aggressive. I was an aggressive recruiter. I would extremely aggressive in the sense that if I were to make an appointment with you, I was like, hey man, like, if you're gonna come see me, at my office, just like I would protect I would protect you. I was like, not that I don't trust you, but I need you to bring your social security, your birth certificate, and if you have a diploma, bring it just so I can confirm your identity.
Shut up, bro. Why have I never thought about that?
Like, I need so bring in these documents. I'll verify that it's you, and then we'll go from there. And it was because think about it, if you and me are sitting talking, and then we're letting random people come to the building, like, and we don't screen them, because now I'm putting your safety at jeopardy. You're like, oh yeah, it makes sense. So they would bring their documents to the appointment. So then when they're committed, I'll scan it. I already had it. So that's because I'm telling you, I was running 5 every month. So that's how I would, or at the minimum, if they didn't have it, I would already identify. I was like, all right, man, after our appointment, you need to go order your social security because you're going to need it for college, you're going to need it for work. So that's how I was able to turn and burn really quick. So yeah, I would set up appointments and have them bring their
you had appointments bringing their vital docs?
Yeah, man, I tell you.
Yo, wow. I don't know why the hell I never thought about, like, I don't know why I'm aggressive as hell. I don't know why the hell I never thought about, throwing that in there. I like that.
Yeah, because when they would commit, they were like, all right, now I need to go home for this shit. I'm like, damn, we're going to lose a day. So those are little things that I would do to kind of like stay ahead of the game. And then I ended up becoming a station commander, and I taught my recruits to do that. So they were able to do that, or like, because some of them will get kind of, it doesn't work with everybody, because some will be like, no, I don't feel comfortable bringing, whatever. Like, chill, like,
yeah,
I'm like a trustworthy guy. Like, just bring your birth certificate, or just bring one of them, and they're like, yeah, I can do that. Or sometimes the parents would get involved. They're like, I'm not bringing his documents. And I was like, you know what? Like, I trust you guys. You can just come in. Like, I got you. So it's kind of like I'm doing them a favor by letting them into the office.
Yeah. So either way, you feel like the good guy, and either way, you got something from them, and either way, fuck, bro. I don't know why. I'm gonna use that shit.
Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, so that's what I would do, and but I really, really, really cared about those that were recruited. I would care about the families. I would say, and they would see that. They would see the genuine love, because I would check on them, after they graduate. I'd keep in contact with the family. So it's very genuine, and I would check on them even when they're in the fleet. So I think that kind of paid dividends too, because then they were like, hey, my cousin wants to join. And there were people, they were like, hey, he lives 60 miles away, but he's gonna come all this way to come join under you. Like that's how good of a reputation I had.
Yeah, so they
Um,
believed in you and they believed in what you were talking about. And it's like you were talking about in the earlier on, we were talking in the beginning, people, a lot of people don't realize that. Like a lot of people have this idea that, okay, well, I got to be somebody else on recruiting duty. And it's like, no, people buy into you. But a lot of people don't join the Marine Corps because it's the Marine Corps. A lot of people join the Marine Corps because they like you.
exactly.
It was the same thing I have a lot of people who couldn't stand me, but I actually had it made me feel real good. I was actually able to, so the other day I got a call from but I've been off recruiting duty for a couple of months, about 7 months now.
Okay.
And, the other day I got a call from one of my boys and he was like, yo, so-and-so, got dropped. He failed both ISTs and he's going to go home. So I was just like, hold on. So the kid's mom called this guy crying, bawling eyes out. And I was the staff in COSC when the kid joined. So
Okay.
I was like, hold on, let me see something. So I called my senior drill instructor is now the company first sergeant out on Paris Island.
Okay.
So I was like, and he's helped me out before. So I was like, let me call him and just see if there's anything we could do. So I
Yeah.
call him and he's like, hey, what's going on, brother? I was like, hey, sir. So I was like, recruit so-and-so failed 2 ISTs. I was like, is there anything you could do? He was like, give me the kid's name. I'll go tomorrow morning. I'll talk to him and I'll see what I can do. So
Yeah.
the next morning, I get a text message from my first sergeant, my senior drill instructor, and he's like, hey, he passed his third IST. He's getting pushed into training. So I was like, fuck yeah. Like I was like so happy. So I called the mom, and the mom, I've never met the mom. Call the
Mhm.
mom and I'm like, hey, Mrs. So-and-so. I was like, I'm just letting you know your son is actually started training today. I was able to get him a third shot. He was supposed to be
Yeah.
flying home today. And the mom starts bawling, crying. She's like, I can't thank you enough. She's like, thank you so much for this opportunity. She's like, I've been praying all night long. She's like, you have no idea how much this means to me. And I was like, ma'am, I
Yeah.
was just like, just write him a letter and tell him that somebody was looking out for him.
Yeah.
And he better not fucking quit. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the thing, man. It's like you said, man. People buy into you.
Yeah.
So you pick. So how long were you a recruiter for? You said 2013 to 2017.
Yes. Yeah. But I was only a canvassing recruiter for 1 year. Um, so I became, like I said, I was canvassing then, and I won recruit of the year for New York, and then I went up to ERR, the Eastern Recruiting Region, and I competed against them, and I ended up winning ERR recruit of the year. Then obviously I went over because I was on the East Coast, so we went to the West Coast to compete for recruiter of the Marine Corps,
Mm-hmm.
and then we them out, and then we competed against the other branches. I ended up becoming a recruiter of the nation in
Oh
20.
shit!
And then they pulled me off the streets, right? And I didn't want to. I was like, I was good at it at that time. And
So
they were like,
hold on. So you were a recruiter of the nation.
yeah.
How the fuck does that feel? Like, bro, I gotta ask you, man. Like, how does it feel to not only like we say things like once a Marine, always a Marine, the few, the proud. We're less than 1%. But not only are you, and I'm not trying to like blow you up here, but not only are you a Marine, now you got a PA, now you're a doctor, but you're also a recruiter of the nation. Like, how do all these different feats, how do all these different things feel to have these titles, to have these things, man? How does it feel? Like, how did it feel at that moment to get this pinned on you from the commandant? Like, how did these things feel, especially remembering back to that day? Like, hey, I'm gonna be recruiter of the year, and you said recruiter of the year. You didn't say recruiter of the goddamn motherfucking nation. Like how did
No,
that feel?
yeah, and I'll share this with you because it was again, it's what really helps me is again turning all this negative energy and saying instead of letting defeat me, using that to propel me. And because I was upset about that Sergeant Major trading me away, I was like, you didn't even give me a chance, like you didn't let me prove myself. But the
Bro, that dude
ironic,
was biting it. Yo, that dude was probably biting his belt or some shit.
oh, wait till I tell you this. So then I ended up going to I went to Quantico, so Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps, and the Commandant for they call it the yearly award. So they award the DI of the year, Crew of the year, MSG, so all the B billets. So I went there and they pinned me on. Or no, they gave me my Navy Com And the recruiters, because the recruiting is, and I will say now, honestly, seeing both sides of the drone ship recruiting is the hardest rebuild. Like I don't care what anybody says, because I've lived both lives.
Yeah, yeah. You could say that shit.
Like through both. So recruiting, so they had the recruiters in the front, and then they trickled all the way down. So they were coming up to congratulate us, and that sergeant major from San Antonio was there, and I looked at him, and as much as I wanted to be like, I fucking told you, he looked at me, and I just smiled, and in my head, like, this is my revenge.
Yeah.
I was like, do you remember me? And then he was like, yeah. He was like, yeah. It's like, I've been in the Marine Corps he was close to like his 30. He goes, there's not a lot of shit that I regret. He goes, but passing you up is one of the biggest mistakes that I made. And I was just like, no, like, I'm glad you did. I was like, because hadn't you done that, then I wouldn't get thrown into New York, where I didn't know anybody. I was never there. Didn't know. I was literally, like, to me, I was thrown to the wild, and I came back and I won. So I was like, no, I'm glad you doubted me. I was like, I needed that. And he felt like shit. He was like, well, if you need me, because he wanted me to go back. He was like, are you going to go 8412 round? I was like, hell no. He was like, well, if you want to recruit in Texas, I got you. I was like, I never want to go to Texas. I was like, but at that time I was so adopted by the New York lifestyle. I was like, I belong in New York. So I adopted it. I was like, no, I'm a New Yorker. Like, I was like, I'm a New Yorker. Like, I was like, I don't need to go to Texas. I was like,
so why didn't you become a 12? Why did you, what was it about? Was it just not your thing? Like, because I know a lot of successful people that were successful recruiters, successful staff and COSEs, who a lot of the reason why they don't become 12s is because they clash with the 12 community. That's what I've been told by a lot of people. So is there a specific reason why you just
no, I couldn't. It's not in my plan, because one day I am going to be a sergeant major of the Marine Corps. So if I were to go 8412, that dream,
you couldn't do that. Yeah.
And I'm en route to, because that's going to be my end goal, to become sergeant major of the Marine Corps one day. I wanted to deploy again. I always had the idea of going to become a drone instructor, but as a recruiter, I was like, hey, I want to be a drone instructor. And they're like, bro, you're way too nice. Like, you got, like, now my voice is broken in, but before I had like soft voice. They're like, you can't yell, you can't scream. Like, you wouldn't make it as a drone instructor. So at that time, and I was letting that, like, they're like, you're good at recruiting.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yo, so the moral of the story is you can't tell Dr. Flores not to do some shit, because he's gonna do some shit.
Yes, please doubt. But that's why I didn't go recruit. And then at some point, because I was recruiting like a high volume, I started to lose. Remember, I said I was genuine, but because I was recruiting so much, that I started losing. I couldn't keep everybody, as far as like having that interpersonal relationship with them, because there were just too many. So I started losing that. And then I started to, and this is not, a shot at any of the 12s, but a lot of them, because they're so removed from the streets, that they lose that factor. Now it becomes numbers. And once I realized, like, now they're still alive. That's still somebody's son. That's still somebody's, child. So once we started losing sight of that, and we're more worried about numbers, to me, I was like, I started to do that as well. I was like, well, I need this guy to ship. I need him there. Like, he's not ready. He's got his family's got a vacation plan. I was like, oh, I don't care about that. Like, he needs a ship. Like, I started to lose sight of that. So once I pulled myself back, and I realized, when I realized that I was kind of like losing some of those values, then I lost my dad on recruiting duty, and I went on emergency leave. And then that was kind of like the wake up call. Like, am I really doing? At that point, I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I was just like, I got so good at it that I'm now becoming somebody that's pushing numbers rather than recruiting. Because now I was a station commander, so I wasn't having that interview with those kids. It was to me now. I'm like, hey, shit. So after a while, I was like,
so how long were you a staff in COSE for?
3.5 years. So I was a recruiter, and I got when I won the recruiter of the year.
So what was how were you as a staff in COSE? Did you go about things differently? Did you, like, was it a huge, like, because now because again, like you're still going through all this schooling, and you went from being a recruiter to now being a staff at CYC. So as we all know, a lot of and as a recruiter, you don't think your staff in CYC does shit. Most
Yeah,
recruiters are like, "Yo, my staff, my gunny doesn't do anything in that office. He ain't doing nothing all day." And then all of a sudden, you become a staff at CYC, and you're like, "Bro,
yeah, it's a lot.
because you get you're in group chats, you're freaking getting calls from the command all day. Hey, what happened to this kid? What
Yeah,
happened? So what was your your battle rhythm through that?
yeah. So I adopted a really unorthodox one. I was like, I'm gonna take care of the recruiters. So I'm gonna make their quality of life really, really good. So I didn't. Um, I took care of them 100%. Like, a lot of them were. I think one of my recruiters like in the middle of a divorce. Another one like never saw his kid. When I got to the station, I was like, hey, I don't care. The mission, we're gonna make mission because when you're at work, you're gonna grind. But I don't want you here all the time. And they knew because once they knew that I was coming to that station because I had just become recruiter of the nation. They were like, oh, this guy's gonna come slay us. Like this guy's gonna come want us to be exactly like him. And one thing I had to realize, like, not everybody's you. So I
Yeah.
took care of them. I would let them go to, spend time with the families. I would let them, I would tell them like, we'd rotate like one day if you leave early today, you can leave like at 2 p.m. and then tomorrow he'll leave. So we always had like an even flow. So somebody was always working, always grinding. I was also a working boss. Like I would actively recruit too, or I would help close. Um,
Bro,
so
that's the
my
key, man. That's the key, bro.
yeah,
And I say that because I've gotten into arguments with people, like the idea of and this is my mentality, right? So if you've become if someone said I'm gonna dominus, you're a staff in COSC, that's because besides the fact that maybe you just came here and you're a gunny, but 9 times out of 10, it's because you were a successful recruiter. So if you become the staff at COSC and you take off the recruiter hat and you don't close on people, then a lot of your recruiters are going to look at you like, who is this guy?
yeah,
And then they're going to lose respect for you. And also at the end of the day, if you're the staff and COSC of that office, you should be the last person that kid talks to before he leaves the office.
oh,
So like for me, if even if I wasn't in the office, which like 10 out of 10 times I was in the office, but if I wasn't in the office, if that kid was done with the interview, you were calling me.
yeah,
No matter what. I was the last dude to talk to that kid. And I would ask him, hey, what happened? What did I miss? What's going on? Because a lot of people, like, they'll be out doing whatever the hell. And they're not there for interviews. They're not there for even appointments or East failures. They're not there for parents. They're not. And it's crazy because you need to be, like it's like being a drill instructor. I don't know anything about it, but I saw my senior drill instructor. He was there. I saw him. And I think for staff and COICs to not be in the office and to not be a part of that office, it's like, no, you need to be. You got to be there. Um, so my bad for going off on that, but so
no, no,
what was your so you made sure they had their quality of life. You
yes.
made sure, and that's I like that how you're saying that you sent one guy home earlier than some guys would stay later. That's good. I like that.
Yeah, and we rotate, but I was the exact same way as you. I was like, I'm gonna talk to every single kid, whether they commit, they don't, whether you close, you don't. And same, I was the last one. But the way the recruiters would like, it was almost kind of like they're like, hey, I'm gonna let you meet my boss. Like if he likes you and he blesses off, then you can join. So it was almost like I had to accept them.
Mm.
Really just kind of. So they would come up and I would talk to them because a lot of times when they would hand them off to me, they were not committed. But I was like, and I would sell them because you're right, we are the experts. And I would sell them, I would close it. I was like, hey, this is Big Brother. He's going to take care of you. I'm going to hand you back to your recruiter. He goes, but if you need anything, you come talk to me. It's kind of like they had like almost like a dad. I was
Yeah.
like, this is brother, I'm dad. He goes, we're going to take care of you. But no, I took care of the recruiters, but because their quality of life was so good. And even like that we'd come up with like little, like when they would TC again. I never TC, but they were good at it. We call it like power hours. So we're like
Yeah.
5 to 6. Like all we're doing is this TCs, and I would have like a board. I'm like, the first one to get like 3 points that you can bounce, and it will almost make it like competitive. So they're all hitting where they were having fun, and I was doing TCs too. So we just made it really really fun, and I was very involved, but because they saw me, my work ethics, they were like, hey, he's taking care of us. He's active recruiting. I would go AC with them. I go to the schools. and then they would see me stay after to do college. So it was a big respect factor. They're like, hey, he's genuine, he cares, he's grinding too. He doesn't have to, because they would see that. They were like, when they go to all hands, they would talk like, yeah, my boss doesn't do shit. And they're like, at the time I was staff sergeant, they're like, staff sergeant, like he's making TCs too. He's closing. So again, I think that's why the 12s didn't like me, because it's not they didn't like me, it was more like envious. They accepted me because they needed me. Like we were overriding, we were over shipping, so they needed us. But they didn't like it because now that became like the new standard, because the recruiters like, oh, how come my boss doesn't do that? Or how come, they would say like, hey man, like you got off at work at 4. And I was like, yeah, like that's what lets me leave at 2. It was like, how many points do you have? And he was like 0. And then our eyes like, why is he going home? Like he doesn't have any appointments. I was like, watch, because he's gonna go spend time with his family, but watch him come back tomorrow. He's gonna grind. Sure enough, he come back the next day and he would work his ass off and set like 7.
Yeah.
It's to me, it was like, you take care of the people.
And that's it. And that's it, man. It's people forget about the fact of people are people. People forget about, the fact that, you have like, for instance, like I've been off the streets for 7 months. In that 7 months, my son just started his first soccer game yesterday.
Yeah.
If I was on recruiting duty right now, I probably wouldn't have been there, but I was
Yeah.
able to, have the time to be there with him. And the reality of it is that you miss so many opportunities with especially if you have children, you miss these opportunities, or even just being your own person, like going out and, driving your car. Like my boy owns a 350, a 370Z, and it's his favorite car in the world, but it sits in a garage because he can't drive it because he's on the duty. And the reality of it is, if you gave that guy maybe 3 hours on a weekend to go drive that car, maybe he would change. It would change the world,
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is people, like you said, people get so bent into shape over these numbers, and they forget about the reality of life. And then, unfortunately, like you said, like, and I remember being in half the staff and COIC meetings, someone would always ask, what's the recruiter's problem? How can we help the recruiters? And in my head, I'd be like, why don't we ever talk about what's our problem?
Yeah.
I'm like, where are we lacking? Because maybe it's not the recruiters. Maybe it's the staff in COSC sitting in the seat that's failing right now.
Yeah.
And maybe that's something that we need to look at, because maybe these recruiters need time off. Maybe these recruiters need to go away for the weekend, or even, because I think, and it's something that always pissed me off, because, and my hopes are to go back to be a 12, but, like my thing is like, they have annual planning conferences. They have all of these events where these people, and I get it, they're necessary, but they go away to these nice bars, these nice places, and then the recruiters are all sitting back at work like, yo, my boss is golfing right now on Snapchat. And it's like, what about them? They're the ones who are out there living, breathing this shit every single day, and they're not getting that time.
Yeah. No, and I no, absolutely, I agree 100%. And I think and it's translates to everything. Like, if I am a recruiter and I'm burnt out, even in my interview, I'm not enthusiastic, I'm not selling myself. You can tell I look like, tired, I'm drained. But when I'll send that recruiter away and come back and he's refreshed, he's got a smile on his face, he's pumped, he's energetic. So when he's on the phone, he's talking, he has life to him. And when he's selling a kid, he's very enthusiastic because his quality of life is good.
Yeah.
He's telling himself like, man, I'm loving life right now. I get paid to do this, and you could feel his energy, because, we let him go home early, and instead of getting caught up in, but we operate as a family. So I was like, hey, staff sergeant, we let him leave today. He has 0 appointments. Obviously it's a lifeline. Like, we need to make up for that somewhere. So I was like, hey man, I'm gonna need you to hit another appointment to kind of make up for that. But don't worry, because tomorrow you're gonna bounce and oh boy's got you. So we always have this like running little rhythm. So we're never really dipping. That the production was always there.
Yeah.
But
that's important. Now, I would also assume, from what it sounds like, is that you had your office was family oriented. It sounds like you guys were all in it together. You guys all had one common goal, and you guys were all trying to just make this mission, but also at the same time you were trying to enjoy the quality of life.
yes. Yeah.
And now that they had it, they didn't want to lose it.
Yes. Yeah. So anytime they wouldn't close, or anytime they would lose a kid, because I never yelled at them. When they would let me down, it would hurt. They were like, damn, like you could see it. And I never had to, blast anybody out just because he knew that I took care of them. But again, the production never dipped. I did tell him, I was like, hey, when we got in there, I was like, we are going to win Station of the Year. I was like, but more importantly, you're going to have a great quality of life and we're going to obtain this. This is a shared goal. So they didn't want it. They're like, yeah, we're not trying to win that. But once they saw,
did you win? Did you win Station of the Year?
No, we did. No, so we numbers wise, stat wise, we did. And this is one thing that I don't like about the 12 community is the politics. Because I didn't at the time. They were like, "Hey, you're gonna become a 12," and it was like literally in September, the cutoff the FY. Light years because we went on a point system and we were literally like 100 points, blowing second place out of the water. And they were like, "You're gonna be a 12," and at that time, I was like, they were like, "Because you got orders, so you're gonna take them, or you want us to cancel them?" And I was like, "No, I'm gonna take them." So once they knew I was gonna be a 12, then they were gonna like, and then they so now they started. We're like, well, they went to some planning conference and they're like, hey, now the minimum attrition is whatever 15%, 17, but they were like, you're at 14 point whatever. So they found a small excuse to disqualify.
Small loophole.
Yeah, and it's the EPM says one thing, so I was like, well, now you're making your own. Like now we're gonna change it to you can't exceed 12%. I was like, what the fuck? Like 1 month before the FY, like it was purposely to deny that. It was a retaliation.
Bro, it's funny that you say that because when my first year on recruiting duty, I literally should have been recruiter of the year, rookie recruiter of the year, but listen how fucking stupid this is, and I fucking bugged out. So I'm a reservist. I'm an EADer. So because my official start date was April, and even though I didn't graduate the schoolhouse till June, and I didn't start on production till July 1st, they told me that I wasn't a rookie and I couldn't get rookie recruiter of the year. And meanwhile, my numbers, like I had the 12 in the office and I had my boy who was the program specialist literally called me and he was like, bro, you destroyed, it was disgusting, but they literally didn't give it to you because of the time frame. You weren't a rookie. I was like, bro, like I was fucking tight. And the funny thing was, is I thought I was getting it. And I'm sitting there at the ball. I'm like, yo, I got this. And then all of a sudden they call this person up. And all of my boys, including some 12s, were like, no. They were like, no. And I was just like, I guess so. Like that shit. My wife was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
But so what happened? So now transition, further on. So you leave recruiting duty, and what's next for you?
So I left recruiting duty. I came to Camp Pendleton in California, and then I started volunteer to deploy again. So as soon as I got here, started workup, and then that was.
And now at this time, you're still Motor T.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, still Motor T. Started workup. Then I deployed. Same thing, starting out in Kuwait, went to Iraq. Part of our detachment went to Syria. I stayed in Iraq. And then we came back to Kuwait and then came back here. But when I was in Iraq, I was due for re-enlistment. So I was like, but I hadn't been off the streets because you have to be from B billet to B billet, you have to be 24 months on station. So you can't go back to back. So I did recruiting, then you have to do 2 years. So, but when I was due for re-enlistment in Iraq, I said, hey, I want to volunteer to be a drill instructor. And they all were like, what the fuck? Like, hell no. Like, Sergeant Major was like, you're not going to be a drill instructor because he already did recruiting. I was like, well, I'm going to submit, worst case scenario, they say no. So I submitted for that. But what I had to do, my plan was to put my DI school seat 24 months out. So like almost like I'm reserving a seat for next year. Volunteer, but next year. So I went out there and then they got approved. They're like, oh shit, you got approved for DI School West. So then came back. I was only back for like maybe 9 months before, and I started training, to become a drone instructor, so running a lot.
What was that like? What did you decide? Like what kind of training did you do to get yourself geared up for that?
a lot of cardio. They tell us to do a lot of running. So I was running a lot of hit cardio, doing so one thing that you got to do in DI school is what they call a teach back. So it's like a drill movement, and you have to memorize it verbatim, and then you memorize it, and then you go to the instructors, and then you have to yell it back, like line by line word. So I started learning those early because when I went to DI school, I was still in college. So I was like, I'm gonna have to balance DI school and college. And everybody's like, you're crazy. You're gonna same thing. You're not gonna be able to make it. So I was doing everything I can to prepare to balance both sides. So I got ahead of the game, did all my teach backs, learned my DI creed. So when I checked into the school, I was light years ahead of all the students because again, I was balancing college. So I had to do that. Then I became a drill instructor. Got sent to Fox Company, which is ironic because the first sergeant.
You were, my bad, but you were saying that Duran, gunnery sergeant Duran, he was one of your instructors.
Yes,
that's dope, man. I deployed with him as Lance Corporals together, and then I actually had him on the podcast a couple episodes ago. How was just out of curiosity? How was he as an instructor?
Yeah, so get this. So your boy, I check in. Gunny Duran at the time, Staff Sergeant Duran was the guy I checked into, and the first thing he saw was my recruiting ribbon. So he started attacking me. So as soon as he saw the recruiting ribbon, he was like, "You're like, oh, you're at the wrong school. Like, the recruits are over there," and just started blasting me, started lighting me up. And he would tease me the entire when I was at DI school about being a recruiter. He was like, "You're not gonna make it." And he just shooting the shit. But he was a good dude, very well trained. He was very one thing I liked about him was he was very real. He taught us what he had to teach us per the curriculum, but he gave us a lot of experience, and he kept it real. He was like, "Hey, this is what's gonna happen. This is what it's gonna be like." So he gave us that preparation. But yeah, he was he was pick on me because I was a recruiter. That's one thing that was his go-to. But it was good. Yeah, it was good school. I think we got.
So how long have you been on are you a senior drill instructor now or not yet?
No, I made it up to chief, and then now I'm the company first sergeant for the headquarters.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So I'm still on the depot. I leave here in July of next year. So I still got a little bit of time. But yeah, I went to the depot. I did what they call a kill hat, or did one cycle. Then I became the knowledge hat for a cycle. Then I did the J, call it the J, which is like the drill hat. Then I did 2 senior cycles and 2 chief cycles.
So I didn't get a chance to ask Gunny Duran this, but out of all this different billets, which one's your favorite? Out of do you enjoy the kill hat? Do you enjoy which one's your favorite?
I would say I think it was being a senior drill instructor, because that's your platoon. You get really, really invested into the kids, the recruits, how you manage a team, and you're in the grind with them. So being a senior was fun, most enjoyable, but you still a lot of people have misconceptions that seniors don't do a lot, but you're still doing all the activities, still doing all the training with the recruits, the team, but now you're managing, and there's a lot of obviously admin, so it's a lot of responsibility for an individual, and it's really easy to get burnt out. But I love the grind. I love being a chief too. Chief is right next to it because now you're managing a series, you're managing seniors.
So you just became a doctor a couple of days ago, right?
Yes.
So how does that feel? I'm confused. I'm going to be honest. I'm confused. Did you fly home to Texas and you did it virtually?
Yes.
Okay. And that was your mother, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay. So how was that, man? How does it feel to have accomplished that through, and it's crazy just because it's crazy to me because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking okay, not only did this guy wasn't supposed to join the Marine Corps, he went against his family's wishes, he joins the Marine Corps, then he decides that I'm not going to drink until I'm 25. He goes to Japan. He doesn't do all this drinking. Then he deploys twice. He also does recruiting duty for like 3.5 to 4 years. Then he goes on the drill field. He becomes a recruiter, then a staff NCOSE. Then he goes onto the drill field, and he gets all the way up to senior drill instructor, to chief drill instructor, to now company first sergeant. Like, bro, how does it feel to have completed all of these different tasks, to have all of these different billets, to have all of these different names, and to now called a doctor? Like, how did that feel? And now I'm also assuming that this is probably not the end, and you have some other crazy goal that you want to attend. Like, so how does it feel?
It I will be honest that until becoming a doctor, I was always tough on myself. Anytime I would receive an accolade, or to me, even now I still adopt it. I think success is not a destination, it's a journey. So rather than to accomplish something and then kind of live off of that, I'm constantly striving, constantly, improving. To have all these accolades, it's great in the sense that I was able to do it. I proved that it can be done. But I remain humble, and I know that people look, say, well, you're the recruit of the year. I was like, yeah, well, that's 2013, man. Like that's in the past. Not taking away that it's not, doesn't mean anything, but
Yeah.
live off of that success, or I can't. I constantly have to grow personally and professionally. But now after becoming a doctor, because that's one dream and one goal that I faced a lot of rejection. That journey was very rigorous and very demanding. So it really humbled me, because constantly getting rejected, because that committee that finally approved me, they were really, really tough. So 5 years of going back and forth, they're saying like, no, this work's not good. You need to do this. You need to do that. So finally, now I have a sense of caution. Like, I get it. So I'm taking a second to think like, wow, I completed this. I said I was
Mhm.
gonna do it, did it.
Yeah.
And
How did your mom feel?
she was happy. Yeah. So typically, not to insult your talent, but the way the defense work is you actually go to the university and you defend it like in a library, and the committee. It's kind of like think of it like being on a board.
Yeah.
Doctors are there. But now with COVID hit, so now we defend it virtually. So I was able to plan it perfectly, where I was able to go home, celebrate my birthday, and then do my defense at home. And that library that I was at, that's the hometown library that I grew up.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah, so I would do all my, like, because we were told we'd have a computer, so I would have to go to the library to do any computer related. So I went back. So it's kind of like almost like going back to where I started.
Yeah.
My mom was proud. She was extremely proud, because she also, a lot of times, like when I would get rejected or when I would get denied, I would call her and I would cry, and I was like, no, I'm there. I don't know if this is gonna happen. She was like, just, you got it. So she was always that affirmation, like, you're gonna do it. So to see me live it through, to go through all that rejection, and to see it, like, come to fulfillment, and she was happy, and she was. I've always been like one of her. I don't want to say like her favorite, but I've been the closest,
Yeah.
to my mom. So to see that,
I
um,
think part of the thing that I'm getting from this whole entire thing, and it's kind of messed up, is, but at the same time, it's kind of not, is that a lot of what you've talked about is a lot of people telling you you can't do this.
yep,
But it's weird because you then use that as your fuel to do it. So it's like,
right,
okay, well, if they hadn't told me I could do it, then maybe I wouldn't be where I'm at.
yeah,
But it's kind of bullshit to look at people and be like, why do people got to be so negative? Like, why do people got to say, oh, you can't do that? Like, because realistically, your leaders, your higher ups should be saying, you know what, you can do this. But I guess because we don't, it's an oddity. I guess because we don't see people do it, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm the same person. I like people like, hey, I'm gonna come out of recruiting duty and I'm gonna have a diet and I'm gonna go to the gym every day. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And so I've been there, I've been that guy. But I think it's a beautiful story, because from everything you're telling us, it's just the reality of like, everyone told you couldn't do it, and now here it is, you did it. You've did everything, and it's like, a lot of people would say things like, oh, his AO, or oh, he doesn't have deployments, but hey, have those as well. So I think so. Now, how long have you been in the Marine Corps, Gunny?
I just hit 13 in August. 13
So,
years.
bro, that's you've done a lot. You've done a lot of shit in
Yeah, but
13 years.
it's
So,
not people telling me not to. It's again, it's taking anything that negatively happens in my life and then
mhm.
using skills. So whenever I go through a breakup or when my dad passed away,
Mm,
uh, anything that happens negatively, that's the fuel. So it's not just
yeah,
like, okay, now I'm gonna go out and prove you wrong.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But it's a goal that I set. Like, all right, well, this is not going well for me. It's not gonna break me. Like, if anything, I'm gonna use that energy to to push it forward. And now my why is because I have a son.
yeah.
My
I was just gonna say that we haven't talked about him at all. So
Yeah, yeah.
when did he come in the picture of how old is he?
So he's 4.
Okay.
He's yeah. So now he everything that I do now. First, it will start off like, yeah, I'm gonna prove you wrong, but now it's to my why is I want to um I want to make sure he knows that I love him, that I put effort. Unfortunately, me and his mom are not together. We went our separate ways, but I don't want that to be a fact that he says like, oh, my dad never makes time. I put a lot of effort, love into him. And I just want to be kind of like that role model was for my brothers, but now it's for my child, my son. So I want him to see like, hey, it is possible my dad did this, and just be a positive sphere of influence for him. So like everything I do now, it's for my son, because he's looking up to me. One day he's gonna realize everything that I'm done, and I want to establish that um, the sky's the limit for him. If I'm able to do all this under these circumstances, and um, I want to show him, pave the way for him, and be just the best father of all this. And you mentioned it earlier. All these titles, all this, like my favorite title is still dad.
Yeah.
It's still
No, bro,
um,
you're not wrong, man.
yeah,
So a question I have, just more so that I have the education on it, and for the listeners as well. So the Marine Corps, to my understanding, how much like you became a doctor. How
yes.
much did the Marine Corps pay for, and then how much did you end up having to like? How does all that work? Like tuition assistance and all that. Like how does that?
Yeah,
If there's someone out there who wants to have the same ability as you, how would they? How did you go through it, and how did you make it happen throughout
yes.
that?
Yeah, so the Marine Corps funded all my education for all the way up to my master's. I utilized tuition assistance. However, one thing that I will caution is that because I was very aggressive in my approach to my education, so I'll take 2 to 3 classes. So I would burn through all my TA pretty quick. You're allotted $4,500 every fiscal year. So in conjunction with TA, I would also do FAFSA for like grants, federal grants. So I was able to use that to pay for my schooling. Now, when I went for my doctorates, the Marine Corps TA will not pay anything past a master's because it's
Hmm.
very unlikely that anybody would even try to pursue doctorates. So what I did was I utilized my GI Bill to pay for my doctorates, and because a lot of times service members will say, "Well, I want to use my GI Bill to transfer to my kids," but so I did the research and I realized that one of the because we're from Texas, one of the benefits we have in Texas called the Hazelwood Act. So it's almost similar to like the GI Bill. So my kids will still be covered because now I'm selfishly using the GI Bill for myself. So you know that GI Bill, but for the doctors, they paid all the class, all the course. I did come out of pocket a couple of classes because I would burn to the TA and I don't want to take breaks. So that it was just pure ambition.
See, I didn't know. I didn't even know you could use your GI Bill while you were on active duty. I didn't even know that
Oh
was a. Oh.
yeah, the only thing is that you will not collect because if you have the post
Yeah,
9/11,
you're not going to get BAH
yeah,
because you're already getting BAH.
correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was able to do that. And then for my doctorates, a lot like I would have to purchase like software to do my data analysis, um, textbooks to educate myself because for our doctorates, they'll teach you. So one thing that a lot of people have the misconception is earning a doctorate is not just the classes. Because I have a lot, even now, a lot of people hitting up like, "Hey, I'm taking doctorate classes." Like, bro, that's the easy part. Like the classes, even though they're hard, that is like the easy part of the journey. The hard part is when you have to conduct your own study because there's no blueprint, and it has to be a study that somebody needs. You can't just go study whatever.
So
So a lot of people,
what was yours?
yeah, mine. So I studied. communication between married Marine couples during overseas deployment. So
Oh wow.
so I was able to pinpoint the stages of the deployment, and and I'm actually gonna give this data back to the Marine Corps, so now they can pinpoint like, hey, if I deployed, this is going to be the hardest part of our deployment. So now there's data, and I interviewed over 24 individuals, and I had to conduct like a data analysis. So a lot of that software, a lot of those books, I purchased myself because I didn't want to ask the Marine Corps for money, because the Marine Corps takes forever to like fund anything. So it's like, if I wait on them, like I'm not gonna, they'll give me money like in 2025. I was like, I don't have time for that. Like so it came out of my pocket a lot when it came to things like that. But again, was to benefit me for my study.
Okay. So what's the next endeavor now that you've completed this? Because you said number one, you have another year at
Yeah.
least of being out there on the drill field. So what's the next, what's the next thing because you have at least 7 more years. I'm assuming if you're trying to be sergeant major in the Marine Corps, you're going to be even further than that. So
Yeah.
the Marine Corps, getting out of the Marine Corps isn't happening soon. So do you have any other things that you're kind of looking at doing? I know I don't know if you already did you already write a book?
Yes. Yeah. I wrote one book, and
Okay.
so the next endeavor is there's three main focal points. Is one, finishing the second book, because I'm almost done with that. So finish that book. Two, I'm also a real estate agent, so I'm going to start in more time and invest in that to sell more and to help families out. So I want to get my market up in that. And then the third thing is I want to compete for Drone Instructor of the Year. So I want to compete on this coast. So those are three things that I'm kind of like actively working.
So for drill instructor of the year, what is the like criteria? Do you know?
So
Like, do
it's fun.
you have to be a drill instructor or a senior drill instructor, chief drill instructor? Like, what's the what?
No, it's open to any drone instructor. Typically, they'll send um, every company will send a representative, and they'll compete at a company level. Then that one will go to the battalion. The battalion will conduct a board. Then that one will go to the depot. Then they'll compete for the year for the depot, and then both coasts go head to head. So, but yeah, so we'll see what happens, because
All right,
it's
so I'm gonna just throw this out there. When you become drill instructor of the year, you got to come back on the show, and we got to do that episode.
all right.
But so I guess just kind of wrapping this all up, man. I just want you to understand. I know you probably already know this because your Instagram has been flooded. I've been seeing it, bro. It's an inspiration to me as a recruiter because I've told so many people what you can do in the Marine Corps,
Mhm.
but I've never seen it done. And
Yeah,
and for someone of your stature to go and do this, it's like, if he can do it, why can't you? If he can go, and it's a huge, if the Marine Corps Recruiting Command does not use your story in some capacity, I'm going to let you know when I get back on recruiting duty. I'm going to bring this video to every school that I go to, because the reality of it is that everybody and anybody is talking about education in today's world. Everybody says you need it. Everybody says you want it. But the reality of it is a lot of people don't have the money. So the idea that someone like yourself, came from a poverty stricken home, living in Texas, to now having your doctorate, to now being a gunnery sergeant of Marines, to all the different things that you're accomplishing in life, it's an insane thing that at the age of 32 years old, you've done these things. And it's just a testament to what the Marine Corps can do. But reality of it is that just your family, that's who your family brought you up to be. And I think it's a beautiful story, and I'm really ecstatic that I'm able to even, hear this story, and then that my audience is going to be able to hear as well. So I just want to thank you so much for the things that you're doing. And I wish you all the luck in the future. And I can't wait to see you as Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. I'll get a coin from you, some shit.
uh, yeah.
But
One thing I'll add, man.
yeah.
I know for a fact that had I not joined the Marine Corps, I would not be where I'm at today. And
Mm,
what I could have gone to college straight out of high school, and I would not have the success because what the Marine Corps instilled is literally those intangibles. And that's what really, because I wasn't always like this. I wasn't outgoing. I wasn't ambitious. I was actually telling my friend earlier that I was stage fright. I was not confident. But when I joined the Marine Corps, all those the core values, the discipline, all those things that the Marine Corps taught me is what really, really brought out my ambition. So if it wasn't for the Marine Corps instilling those intangibles, if you were to follow like my life in two different paths, the Marine Corps and then going to college, I could probably started college and probably would never finish. And then in the Marine Corps, because that drive, those mentors, the Marine Corps has a lot of assets and resources that sometimes we overlook. It's full of people with so much wisdom, so much experience, so much leadership. So we'll always pay attention to toxic leadership and the bad, but we don't ever talk about the good leaders. We have some amazing leaders, amazing people in the Marine Corps. So I would gravitate and I would, talk to them like what made you successful. So, or, how can I go about this? So it's constantly expanding my circle. So I say all that to say that the success I have today, I know for a fact would not be possible, not to this capacity.
So you credit it all to the Marine Corps.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was, and that's why I love the organization. You'll probably see it a lot. I do get a lot of criticism. Like, why didn't I go officer? I was like, you're a doctor, and people are like,
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
Like, why do you go officer? And because we have that stigma, you have college, go officer. I was like, but what about the enlisted? Like we lose sight of that. So one, I want to stay working with Marines. I love the Marines. I don't need to be an officer to be a leader. I can still lead in enlisted ranks, and I think I want to be that inspiration and that testimony to the enlisted. When they say, oh, they're uneducated, I'm like, well, no, there's a lot of people with degrees. And then the end goal from the day I joined the Marine Corps, I said, I'm going to be Sergeant Major of the Marine Corps. And so that is my vision. That's my plan. Officer is not relevant to that. And I know people talk about retirement and all that. I'm like, I'll be fine, but that's the path that God wants me to take. That's where I'm going to go. And that's what I'm going to stick to, regardless of what criticism. But I'm going to stay enlisted, and I will be a leader for the enlisted side. So that's why I will always stay on the black side.
So do you just a question I just thought, so are you still not drinking? Have you already just not really drink?
I've been making up for it.
Huh?
No, I said now I'm making up for it, but I always celebrate. That was just again to launch my career early.
Yeah.
But now responsible, nothing crazy.
Gotcha.
But now I do have my good times too.
All right, no doubt. Well, hey, listen, man, I really just want to thank you so much for making yourself available, man. I really appreciate you taking the time out. Again, it's an amazing story, and I'm glad that we have it, because now it's something that, a lot of recruiters can use it as a story. Like, listen, oh, you can't get your degree? This guy got a doctorate. And it's amazing because a lot of people think, oh, only stupid people join the military. Okay, well, it's not the reality. And it's great just to know the things that you've done, the people the lives that you've changed, on the recruiting side and on the drill instructor side. And I just, again, man, I really thank you for your time and thank you for coming out. Do you have any last words or anything maybe that you want to say to anybody on recruiting duty, on drill instructor duty, anyone that's just going through the shit right now, that any kind of words of wisdom or advice that you maybe want to give them as just like something for them?
Yeah, no, I would say just remember like why you're there and the impact that you're going to have, those lives that they're going to change. The recruiters, they're going to change somebody's life. My recruit changed my life, and look where I'm at now, but it would never have been possible if it was not for my recruiter who introduced me to it. So remember who you put in the Marine Corps might be the next GySgt Flores, might be the next, Dan Daly. So remember the impact that you're having on lives. Same thing as a drill instructor. You don't know who you're molding. Stick it out, and in the end, it's going to be very beneficial. It sucks, we know it. You'll get through it. Stay positive, and then if there's anything they can learn from me, is the negative in your life. Use that to, produce something positive, and that's what I've been doing. That's how I'm able to accomplish that.
All right, no doubt. No doubt, man. Well, thanks a lot, Gunny. I appreciate you coming out here, man. And I look forward to continuing to see your development. And I like that. I can't wait to see what the next thing is for you, because I feel like there's just so much more.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate it, Gunny, and have a good day. And thanks again.
All right, my man. You guys have a good one.